At the start of a new year, you may find yourself sitting down to write a list of things that you want to accomplish, and as long as you set clear goals with thoughtful intentions, you can't go wrong. There are some goals that are more obvious than others, the ones driven by numbers, as you may be able to guess. However, there are also goals that creators can use to broaden their horizons, improve their skills, and get better year after year. Today we'll be reviewing the 4 types of goals I think every influencer should have to help you grow as a creative, both practically and emotionally. I am a fashion and beauty micro-influencer based in New York City, and I use this channel to help you create great content, grow your digital brand, and earn sustainable income from content creation. So if any of that interests you, please consider subscribing. Especially around a new year, there can be a lot of pressure around setting the right goals and figuring out what you really want to accomplish. I've been creating content for over a decade, and in the last 10 years, I have set many a goal as a content creator. Some helpful, some not very helpful. Some reasonable goals, and some that were a stretch. Goals are extremely personal, and I want this video to not stress you out, but inspire you to make your own decisions and figure out what works best for you as an individual creator. So with that, let's get into the 4 types of goals I believe all influencers should set, and you can decide for yourself which direction you'd like to take these in. The first type of goal I believe every influencer should set are creative goals. There are plenty of numbers-driven and more quantitative goals that you can set, which we'll get into later in this video, but creativity is at the core of what we do, and setting goals to nurture that is extremely important. I truly believe that encouraging your own creativity is one of the best things you can do, and that creativity can sometimes get pushed to the side when we are doing this as a business, and so setting a goal is a great way to stay accountable and continue to nurture your creative side. The ability to tap into your creativity and produce content that resonates with people is what makes your audience want to follow you and brands want to work with you. So it's important not to lose sight of that, even as your business continues to grow. I think that this is a great time to challenge yourself to further push one of your creative skills, whether that is photography and trying out a new type of lens, or maybe shooting on a film camera, or looking for new fun transitions to try and learning how to do those in a platform like Video Leap, CapCut, or InShot. If you mainly produce written content, you might want to think about taking some kind of free creative writing class, watching a few YouTube videos, or doing some journaling prompts just to get your gears turning. Maybe there's one type of content that you've never tried creating before, and you're just feeling the urge to experiment and be creative. For example, you may be a TikTok content creator and feel the desire to create more long-form content. So maybe you start just with the voice notes app on your phone, recording what could turn into a potential podcast, and you just get to exercise a different creative muscle by doing audio first content instead of your normal video first content. One of my favorite ways to stay accountable with a creative goal like this is to make sure that I'm scheduling the time to be creative, which I know sounds a little counterintuitive, but actually identifying dates on your calendar where you plan to follow your creativity first and not worry as much about the business side of things can be key for really following through on this one. If I could give you a suggestion, I would encourage you right now to pause this video, go to your Google Calendar, and pick 4 random days, maybe one in each quarter of the year, where you decide to follow your creativity first. Maybe that will lead you to sketching at a museum, or maybe it will encourage you to sign up for a painting class with a friend of yours, but make sure that you really are scheduling in the time for this one, because as our businesses continue to grow and evolve, our creativity still needs to be a priority. The next type of goals that I think influencers should set are quality goals. As I'm sure you know, the creative process can sometimes be messy, but whatever we are creating as our final result, whether it is an off-the-cuff TikTok video or a very polished, professionally shot YouTube video, you still want to always be pushing the quality of your content, whether that is writing better scripts, engaging more with your audience, or learning new technical skills to go along with all of the amazing content that you're already producing. Just like with any career, you always want to be upping the quality and continuing to level up and challenge yourself to create better versions of your work. And this this really can vary from creator to creator. So if you create more off-the-cuff, authentic, short-form video content that you shoot on your iPhone and you feel like having professional lighting or a DSLR camera would be a disservice to your content, I'm not saying change just for the sake of changing, but maybe you could think about continuing to improve the quality of your existing content, meaning maybe if right now you do day in the life vlogs and you tend to time-lapse your content, maybe not time-lapsing your content, but having much more short clips stitched together is more visually appealing for someone to watch, and testing that out could be a way to increase the quality of your content, not to mention increase retention and views. Or maybe you create content that is just you talking to the camera. I know one thing that I feel like really helped me level up the quality of my YouTube content was when I switched from filming in the bedroom, which I was mainly just doing out of convenience for noise purposes, to making time to actually be able to sit in here when it's nice and quiet, have this nice filming setup with my bookshelf, and just feel a lot more professional. I feel like giving advice from my bedroom versus giving advice in front of my little more officey, businessy layout has definitely improved the quality of my videos. And even though that's a subtle visual change that maybe you haven't noticed until I just pointed it out right now, that's something that I have thought about the quality of my YouTube content for a while. And honestly, there are so many incredible resources on the internet today that can help you achieve your quality goals. So whether you want to improve your writing, editing, filming, copywriting, any of these different things, there are tons of resources out there for you, both free and paid, to help you learn more and continue to improve those skills. Investing in education to improve the quality of my content is one of the best things I've done as a content creator, and I have paid for courses from everything for YouTube success to SEO to even how to produce digital products. But if you're not ready to make an investment like that, there are plenty of free resources out there, including one that I made called the Influencer Launchpad. You've probably heard me speak about this guide before, but in case you haven't heard about it yet, the Influencer Launchpad is a free guide I've created specifically for you to help you get aligned on things like what your why is as a content creator, which posting platform might be the one that you want to focus on and prioritize, figuring out your content calendar, content pillars, and so much more. So you can grab that guide completely for free using the link down below in the description box. So I want to move into the next two goals, but before I do, I wanted to quickly touch on the idea of setting input goals versus setting output goals. An input goal is essentially what you can control and specific actions that you plan to take to hopefully achieve a specific result. And then output goals are really the result that you'd like to achieve. So one way to think about setting an input goal would be, I would like to post at least 10 times a month on Instagram, and then all you have to do is follow through on that goal to hit it. And the idea behind the input goal is there is an implied result of posting on Instagram helps you do things like engage your community, grow your following, or potentially get your content in front of new people. I actually recommend thinking of these two things in tandem and not really separately. So you can come up with an output goal, for example, hitting 10,000 followers on Instagram, but then underneath that goal, you can break out bullet points with different inputs that you plan to do, different actions you plan to take to actually achieve that result. When you come up with an output goal and then work backwards to see exactly what actions need to go into that goal in order to achieve it, then you'll have a much more clear path to actually getting that goal across the finish line. I see a lot of people share big output goals like hit 100,000 followers on YouTube, but they don't really have a clear plan of how they intend to get there. So that being said, the next type of goal I think all influencers should have are growth goals. One of the best things you can do as an influencer is to grow an audience on social media, and you want to think about what exactly you can be doing in order to grow an audience and how much bigger you'd like your audience to be. The first thing I would establish here is to identify your priority platforms, and I personally find it really hard to prioritize more than one social media platform at a time. So if I'm having a month where I'm really going all in on TikTok, that might mean that I'm showing up a little less consistently on platforms like Instagram or Pinterest. Identifying your priority platforms is a great way to start understanding then what types of goals you'd need to set in order to grow those platforms. Now, in terms of the outputs you might want to set for growth-specific goals, you can either think about growing your audience by a percentage or growing by or to a specific number of people. So for example, your goal might be to grow your Instagram by 25% from what you had last year. So you can use that percentage to understand what your follower count is now and how many people you would need to add to your community in order to grow 25% year over year. Or you can set a follower goal. So you could set a goal about how many more community members you'd like to add to your audience in order to reach a specific number, or you could simply say, I want to get to 10,000 Instagram followers. And then, like I was talking about with your input goals, you can figure out what your posting cadence might need to be and what other types of actions you might want to take in order to actually grow that community. Maybe you can try things out like batching your content creation so that you produce a ton of content in one day and then schedule it out. Or maybe now is a great time to hire a virtual assistant to do some of that scheduling for you so you can focus more on some of your more community-focused outreach goals. While creating content, of course, can't be all about the numbers, they are important, especially if you want to monetize your brand and monetize your content. So I do believe that putting effort into actively trying to grow all of your online communities is an extremely worthwhile goal as a content creator. And the next type of goal that I think all influencers should set are revenue goals. Yes, now we are talking about the money. And I'll be the first to admit, this is the type of goal that used to intimidate me so badly, but I think I've definitely gotten a little bit better about how to set both realistic and ambitious revenue goals. And I'll also add that how much money you want to make as a content creator is all relative to how much time you have in a week to spend creating content, whether this is a side hustle or your full-time job. So this really will be different for everybody. If you've made any money as a content creator up until this point, you can go back and look for patterns in your revenue, see how much money you made, for example, in the last month or the last 6 months or even the last year, and use that to help you predict your future income. And I'm also a big fan of segmenting these goals and splitting them up, first deciding how much you'd like to make in a year, then figuring out approximately how much you plan to make in each quarter and also how much you ideally would make each month. Now, obviously, some streams of income are more predictable than others, and for example, in 2022, I was anticipating earning most of my money from brand partnerships in the fourth quarter. Now, that actually didn't happen, but traditionally, looking at the facts, that was when I earned the most money from brand partnerships, so it wasn't an unreasonable assumption to make, but understanding what my other income streams were and which income streams were still giving me consistent and even passive recurring revenue definitely helped kind of fill in the gaps of what I was missing from what I thought would be brand deal income with income from some other places. And you know the seasonality of your influencer business best. So if you are a productivity creator, maybe you get the most brand partnerships in January and the new year. So you might have a really profitable Q1 and then kind of taper off for a few months before brand offers start coming in again. Or maybe you launch a course every spring, and so you know that the second quarter is going to be highly profitable for that revenue stream, and you can predict a higher amount of income in Q2. So think about the dates and parts of the year where you tend to earn the most, where things are a little bit slower, and use those to help you figure out what you might be earning each quarter to ultimately add up to your annual revenue goal. And if you want to learn more about income streams, making money as a full-time content creator, be sure to subscribe to my email newsletter because I am planning a workshop coming up in the next few weeks that I think you guys will love on this exact topic. So the best place to learn more and stay in touch about that is by subscribing to my email newsletter, which is always linked down in the description box. And when you do sign up for that email newsletter, you'll also get that free guide, the Influencer Launchpad, that I spoke about earlier in this video, so don't miss your chance to grab that free download now, and check out the up next recommendation on the screen to see what you should do to reset your goals or check in with them midway through the year so that you can adjust accordingly and stay on top of things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.